Hello, 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 hello. It is Thursday. No, Thursday, yep. It is Thursday. It is another day, another stream. And today we have something we have never done before. Well, yeah, I think we've done it before, but not really covered it that well. So today what we're going to do is, after basically finishing the model yesterday, we finished the hands. We worked on the hands for our Final Fantasy model. Today we will go into retopology because we want to pose the character at the end. Of course, we need to give it good topology so we can apply a rig and pose the character. To do that, we need to retopologize the model. I think I've said that now 3 times, which means today we will cover basically a simple and effective technique to retopologize your model. Of course, the technique is simple, but of course you need to, I guess, practice a little bit. It is still simple, I think, in my opinion, it's the simplest technique that you can use to make your characters, give your characters good topology or retopologize your characters without, that much complexity. Who would have guessed if it's simple? Before we do that, of course, we do the 30-minute quick sketch, and then afterwards we're going to go into the retopology. That's going to be the goal for today, retopologizing the character. If we cannot finish it today, I will finish it over the weekend, so we can then next week work on the next step, which would be adding the first layer of clothing that is basically symmetrical, so that we can then retopologize that as well, and then apply it to the rig, or apply a rig the character, so that we can then pose the character, and then afterwards basically work on the rest of the clothing and finish the model basically. That's going to be next week. This week, the last stream today, we will focus on topology. If you only want to see the first video, the first topic, or you only want to see the second, the first or the second, I can't speak today. There should be timestamps in the description if you watch this as a video afterwards. So if if you're only interested in one of these topics, then you can skip to those. If there are no timestamps, then I probably haven't added them yet. Sometimes I add them right after the video, after the stream. Sometimes I add them later. Depends on my mood, you could say. Okay, I don't want to waste any time, so we have as much time as possible for the retopology. Let's get into the 30-minute quick sketch. Today's model, or today's subject, is pretty fluffy. Look at him. Look at him. Do you see him? Huge eyes, fluffy body. Well, this is probably like a toy, or like a not real, but these 3 are. See, he's waving. So we're gonna sculpt a moth today. It's a silk moth. They're very, very, very small. As you can see, this is a finger. They're very, very small. I think this is even way too big than what they usually are in size. So yeah, this will be the goal, or the subject for today. We're probably going to go for something like this in terms of the, I guess, pose. We're going to keep it symmetrical, otherwise we're not going to finish it. 30 minutes is not enough to finish a fully asymmetrical model, so we're going to stick with symmetry. Everything is set up. We can begin in just a few seconds. Hold on, let me just quickly hit that. There you go. And where's my... There it is. Okay. Where's my timer? There it is. Perfect. Okay. We're going to begin the quick sketch in 3, 2, 1, go. There you go. 30 minutes. Let's go. Welcome back, hustler. Hope you had a chill day at work. Nothing crazy going on. Maybe even nothing going on. Maybe you could just chill. Hope you've been doing well. Okay, we're gonna begin with the head. I guess we could say that this is the first part of the body, like the middle piece here, and then we can attach the head to the front. I think for this one, it works quite well. Usually I always start with the head, but I think with this, we can work, I guess, a little bit different. differently, because there's not really that much to the head. It's just like a small, I guess, sphere in the front. There you go, like this for the, I guess, you know, head, and then we can add the eyes as well. The eyes are very big, so we need to have some room there. This is probably the best reference for the eyes. Okay, yeah, let's just sculpt in the eyes. Before we do that, though, I kind of want to make a general sort of outline here for the eyes where they're being socketed in. They also have these cute, I don't know what they are, like antennas. We can't forget those. There you go. Kind of carve out the body a little bit more right here. Give it some more room. Okay. The eyes are right there. They seem to be round, so I think we need to push this further forward just a little bit so we have some more room for the eyes. There you go. Make them bigger, bigger, bigger. Of course, with, what is it called? Accumulate. It's way, way easier to just add more and more volume. Look at them. Of course, because of smoothing, we kind of remove this hard edge that would be there for the eyes and the to separate the eyes from the rest. I think they're also a little bit too big, so we can smooth it a little bit to bring them, push them further into the mesh or into the head. There you go. Okay, there you go, perfect. It seems like they have some sort of like mandibles in the front, so we're gonna add those as well. There you go. Look at him, isn't he cute? We're gonna add the antennas later. I want to focus on the rest first. Like, for example, the body. The body seems to be not as round as we have it here. We also need some more in the back. So let's shape that first. We can see a huge neck, you could say, right there. So let's add that now. If the head is right there, we can probably add some more volume right here. Just gonna bring the neck out a little bit more, or the back, whatever you want to call it. There you go. Smooth it. Perfect. Okay. I think we need to push this back a little bit just so we can place the legs underneath. Okay, perfect. So we have the chest region piece, whatever. And then we need the last body part, which would be the back, the huge part of the body. So if I, you know, I can't really see it from the references, but it seems like, or I would guess it would be similar to how like wasps and spiders and all that stuff have their abdomen, I think they're called, where it's like super, super thin, like they have like a super, super thin waist, you could say. We're going to do that here as well, but we're not going to just, you know, extrude out very, very thinly. We're going to extrude out very, very thick, and then we will basically use the crease tool to dig back in, basically. So we're going to pull this out first, and then we can think about the rest later. I think that's a good length, maybe a little bit longer. There you go. Oh, hello. That's not supposed to be wide. Okay. Okay, there you go. We probably need some more. I think this is still too small. So let's add some more volume right here. Especially in the front. It's kind of, you know, collecting here in the front, kind of, because then it gets super, super, super thin. We can maybe even imitate these sort of ridges that the back has by just using the glaze tips brush. There you go. Okay, perfect. There you go. I think that's a good start. Let's look at it. Yeah. Maybe we need to make the body a little bit smaller. I think overall it's in a good spot. Just a few adjustments and then I think we're pretty much there. There you go. Okay, let's go here and add some more here. Okay, so now we have a narrow waist. We could maybe make it smaller. Let's just dig in even more here. The biggest thing that is missing still, of course, is the legs. We can add those in just a second. I kind of want to look at the middle piece here a little more. Maybe we can pull this down a little bit so we have some more room for the legs. Okay. Welcome back, Zachary. Hope your day has been good as well. Okay. Perfect. Oh, of course we also need to add the wings, but the wings we're going to add later. Let's add the legs first. So the legs could be pretty interesting. I think what I want to do here is I want to create 6 sort of 6 of these, I guess, holes, and then we can pull out legs from there. There you go. Invert, grab the snake hook brush. As far as I can see, it is like 3 limbs. So it's one that just very small that goes down and then goes to the side and then down again. So we're gonna pull it out like this. Very, very small. There you go. Maybe even inwards. Maybe they're even small. Maybe they're even further in the middle. I think they are. So we can put them maybe even over here. There you go. Nice, that's nice, that's nice. Has been a good day. Nice. Hope it stays that way. Okay. Now we can pull it out and we can create the different limbs. Okay, so that's the first part. We could probably separate them a little bit more. I think that would make sense. So we're gonna grab these individual pieces here. Oh, hold on. I can just grab my, what is it called? Alt Z and then Shift Control. There you go. Perfect. To select just one of these. Oh. Legs. Perfect. And then we can adjust the shape a little bit better. We're going to put this more in the middle, just because I want it to be. To make it, you know, a little bit more random where they're placed. There you go. Okay, and then we're going to go in here and we will pull it out. Wait, it's hard to kind of find a good, I guess we can just select, no, I'm going to do this. Okay. Perfect. Okay, maybe we can put the 2 in the front, maybe a little bit further forward, so we can pull those or push those forward a little bit, as I said just a few seconds ago. There you go, select them. And then, oh, hello. We push them forward. Of course, these legs are probably the hardest thing to model just because they're so intricate and so small or thin. So we kind of either have to increase the resolution or we kind of have to make them just a little bit thicker than they actually are. I think that's the solution that I'm going to go with. Welcome back, Manika. Hope you had a great day. Maybe you read a book. Maybe, I don't know, you pet a dog. Maybe you have your own dog that greeted you once you came home, or you just stayed home. So many options. Okay, let's start adding the legs now. We're going to begin with the ones in the front, of course. So the pose that we have currently is probably suited for something like a flying pose. I thought about doing something like this where it's sitting on something, but I think what we would have to do is add something where it could sit on, and then trying to figure out how the legs kind of, you know, lie on it or sit on it could probably be quite annoying, or could take a while to figure out. So I think what we're going to do is just, you know, we're just going to make it fly. Let's begin with the lower feet or legs. Has been good. Nice, that's nice. Okay. Today it is time to prepare the model for the next step. Next step would be adding clothing. Once we basically retopologize the body is ready for to be rigged. So the next step then would be to add the clothing that can also be rigged because it's symmetrical. And then after we have done all that, we can rig the character. I mean, yeah, rig and pose the character. And then we can go into the last stage, which would be basically bringing everything else in, which still needs to be added. Like, for example, the cape, maybe the hat, everything that is asymmetrical when it comes to clothing. And then, you know, we can work on the materials and all that stuff to finish the model. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. We can make the ankle smaller. That is definitely something we have to do, but we're going to focus on the other parts first. Like, for example, finishing the... Wait. Okay, yeah. Like finishing the legs. I'm going to select this and pull it out again. So it seems like they actually have more than just 3. They have 1, 2, 3, and then one going into the middle, or into the chest, I guess you could say. So they actually have one more. Or you could say this is a foot, if you wanted to. So this is the leg, the calf, you could say. And then at the end, we have the foot. Right here. Maybe you can just pull it out. Let's see what it looks like. Da-da-da. I guess. Looks kind of weird. Kind of small. Okay, that's better. Let's keep it there first. It kind of looks like it's just standing. Okay, let's bring in the other legs. Hopefully then it looks a little bit better. Grab this. Perfect. And then we invert. Do the same again. So this one we can probably just pull to the side and then inwards again. I think that could be pretty cool. So we actually have to select it in a different way. There you go. Invert. Grab the snake hook. Pull it out and pull it back in. Maybe downwards slightly. Perfect. There you go. I don't know if that's at all realistic in terms of its anatomy, but I'll just continue. Okay. There you go. And then we add the legs. I mean, the feet. If you want to call them that. I wonder what they're called for insects. If they have feet or if they have... I don't even know. There you go. And then we put the other ones in the middle right here to kind of fill the space in the middle. How you can see them being here. Like this. So we need to, first of all, could probably pull them even further in. There you go. Maybe even pull them down. Yeah, I think that could work. We don't need to pull it up. We need to pull it down so we can then go up again. There you go. Grab it. Make a good mask. We invert it, pull it out, and pull it down. Oh. That's quite a thick leg, but that's okay. We can of course just adjust it. There you go. Pull it down. And then we do one more right here. Oh, perfect. And we invert it and grab the snake hook brush to pull out a foot. Quite big, but that's just how it is. We can now kind of refine it. We have everything except for the wings. So why don't we first kind of, I guess, give this some more love, and then we can look at the wings. Seems like all the legs sort of come out of the middle, so I'm trying to add some more volume right here, and then remove some over here to kind of insinuate or kind of allude to the fact that they go into the middle. Like this, they go. Simple, easy, no problem. And then we can go and continue. Okay, I think the bottom leg is quite long. Maybe we can pull this up a little, make it a little bit smaller. Seems quite big. Okay, now let's kind of refine these legs. They look sort of funky right now, some of them. First of all, we need to make the legs overall, especially on the ankles, a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. So let's do that now. For example, here we can maybe even use the crease brush for it. That's probably the best option. There you go. We do the same for this one. Oh. Okay, yeah, you can immediately see how it looks more like an actual insect leg than just some sort of stick or actual like human legs. Just doing this can really help. I wonder why they are connected like this, or not just like humans would have them. There's probably some sort of reason for it because of their like hard shells that they have for a body, that they cannot really just, you know, they can't deform it, so they probably just have to make these separations between every limb. I guess that's the reason for it. Maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong. There you go. You just got home? Oh no. Hopefully work was not too stressful. I think you said you are in a similar timeline than I am. Timeline? Is that the right word? I think. So I guess you're working like a late shift instead of night shift, and I guess normal shifts. You said you switched shifts, or you got switched to a different shift, so you have to, you know, work longer, if I recall correctly. Time zone, there it is. Time. What did I say? Timeline. I'm actually not in this universe in yours. I'm in a different one. $9 p.m. Yeah. It's 8 p.m. for me. 8:15. So you're in the future, basically. Can you give me some insight? Are we still gonna live in an hour? 9 to 9. Ah, okay. I want to try one thing. What if we smooth the middle piece so we can get pretty thick outer pieces, but then the middle is quite small? I want to look what that looks like. So the problem here is that this thing is quite fluffy, and we need to kind of convey that somehow. Maybe we can do that with some crease brushes. I don't want to make it look too spiky. I just want to make it a little bit fluffy looking. So maybe by just kind of, you know, I guess drawing over it, or brushing over it. Maybe we can make it look more like a more like fur than just hard, I don't know, chitin. Where Kardashian is president. Okay. Does the president as his last name have Kardashian? Okay, this just kind of seems like it's it looks more like it's just some sort of, it still looks super hard. It's pretty difficult to really sculpt fur. I think it works better with the clay strips brush, because these hard edges don't really work that well when it comes to making it look like fur. What do I use the clay strips brush for this? I don't know. I think that is too smooth for this resolution, so we don't really have a good option, I guess. We just work with what we have. There you go. Okay, let's go to the wings real quick. We have, I think, 4, right? Yeah, we do. Well, yeah, we do. Well, they're sort of together. So what if we just make 1 and then separate the 2 by using a crease brush, or kind of imitate it if there are 2? So we go in here. Oh, there you go. Nicely on the side. And then we invert and grab the snake hook brush and pull it out. Zip. Nice. Perfect. So it seems like they go slightly forward and then they have this big round ending. Maybe they're a little bit wider, so I'm just going to pull it out some more. There you go. Yeah, I think that works quite well. There's some sort of, like, it's rounding a little bit, but I think that's okay. For a quick sketch, I think that's totally acceptable. I'm actually just going to add another layer here using the clay strips brush, making sure that I'm not going through to the other side. Okay. Perfect. So what you're telling me is that there's a president that is called Kardashian? Is that what do I get that right? Am I picking up what you're putting down? Or am I off the mark? I've never heard of somebody that, never heard of a country that has that, but maybe, I'm not really that good in geometry, so... Geometry? What? In, not geology. Geography. It's pretty funny. The only real topic that I was good in math, I think since like grade 6 or so, I was never really good in math. I always had like, after school, like help, I guess you could say, and stuff like that. And the only topic that I actually was really, really good at, or I understood immediately, was like vector, like calculations, like 3D, working with 3D graphs. Pretty funny that, I don't know, it just fit perfectly with what I do now. I think oftentimes, probably not like that for everyone, but oftentimes you can probably see, like, look at the topics that you maybe are good at, or the topics that you liked, but, you just, I don't know, didn't practice for some reason, maybe, I don't know, to maybe find what you want to, do later as as work. Look at him. Okay, there's one more thing missing. We have 4 minutes. We can work a little bit more on the fur up here. Let's do that. Kind of imitating the fur here, making it fluffy. There you go. The problem, I think, so I always thought, or I was thinking about stuff like that. Like, you were saying he's a different timeline. Oh, okay, now I get it. Okay. Okay, yeah. I thought about stuff like, well, how do you find your, you know, because so many people in my school were like, oh, I don't know what I want to do later, so I'm just gonna go to university. You know, everybody went to a university because either they wanted to be a doctor or whatever, or they just didn't know what they want to do, so they just did that for some reason. And for me, that was never really the case. I always kind of knew what I wanted to do, at least what kind of direction, you know, creative stuff. And so I already kind of knew where I wanted to go, but others, you know, didn't really know what they wanted to do. So I always kind of wondered what that would be like, or how you could, you know, help them, I guess, or how they can find what they like. And I never really, so yeah, and then at some point I discovered, or I learned about a new concept that kind of completely, so because I always thought like, well, just find out what you like and then, you know, do that, which is probably, you know, still, you know, true. But then I actually learned this kind of new, I guess, concept that I never really considered before, which is, you know, there are things that you're good at, and there are things that you are, that you like, or that you're passionate about. The perfect job would probably be something that you're good at, or that you're passionate about and you're good at. But what happens if you are good at something that you don't like, or you, well, yeah, basically. So what happens if you're like super good at math, but you actually hate math? Like, do you still become something, like, do you still work as some sort of math guy somewhere, or do you rather do what you want to do, you know, what you're passionate about? I think the solution is still doing what you are passionate about, just because, you know, you might not be good in the beginning at it, but I think if you know, if you're interested in the topic, then you will eventually be good. And, you know, at some point, you know, talent, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't really get you that far. It's a good head start, but it's not really something you can use to boost yourself higher than other people that maybe, I don't know, don't have that. So I think overall it's still trying to find your passion, and then maybe if it, you know, is something that can be a real job, trying to find a job in that direction. There you go. Or, well, no, never mind. We have, oh, hold on. Well, we're almost done. Oh, we need to, hold on. Okay. I'm just gonna do a big flap down here, otherwise it's not gonna look that great. There you go. I think that works. Look at him. Perfect. Okay, we're done. Oh, we need to remove the eyeball so we can put in spheres. Okay, let's do that real quick, and then we are done. There you go. Okay, it kind of looks like he has eyes right now. Comic eyes, or stylized eyes. Okay. UV sphere, there you go. Make it, oh, how about we save for the first time? I think that could be a good next step. Just so we don't lose everything again, like 2 days ago. Quick sketch day 207. Perfect. There you go. Put that in here. Make them smaller. And then we have nice little eyes. Or big eyes, rather. Huge, humongous eyes. There you go. Look at him. It looks pretty cute. Maybe they can even be further out. Just a little bit like this. There you go. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's render it. Okay, we bring in the lighting and then also the material. Dude, it's so warm in here right now. You know, in the morning, it's super cold in my room, so I bump up the temperature on my AC or on my, yeah, basically AC. And then it just over time gets warmer and warmer and warmer, which means at some point it's so warm that I'm, I don't know, for some reason getting sleepy. I remember like an old friend was always like, he always bumped up his temperature in his room like so much. I would always say like he lives in a terrarium where like insects or like geckos and all that stuff live, just because it's so warm in there, and he would always complain that he's so sleepy just because it is so warm in his room. That's kind of how I feel right now. Probably gonna open the window once we render this. Geometry, yeah. Geometry, well, I don't know. Geometry, at least for me, always made sense because I could see it and kind of correlate the different functions to, you know, what I see in front of me. I think the biggest problem for me was always just when it only was theory, when you had to think about why it works that way, then it's just it didn't work. So I just never understood it really, and then oh, hold on, let's put in some lighting. Yeah, geometry, I think in my opinion was, at least when it comes to math, the one thing that I at least understood mostly. Dude, which material do I need? This one? There it is. Is it this one? Yeah. There you go. Perfect. I want to place this a little bit lower so we can see the antennas a little bit better. I think that's better now. We can also work on the lighting a little bit. I think placing it here works quite well, but the lights are in a weird position. We also need to add the eye material. Oh, look at him. Nice. Nice reflective eyes, which we should probably change because insects don't really have like reflective eyes. I think that looks quite well, like 0.3. I think that can work. Okay, let's work on the wait, what does 0.7 look like? I wonder what's more like the reference. I think this is more like the reference. It's not really reflective at all, or the light, the reflection gets diffused quite a lot. So I think I'm going to stick with this. Okay, let's place the lights and then we can finish it. If you have a name suggestion for this piece, put it in the chat. Oh, I don't need this. Fluffy Or flying fur ball. Flying snowflake. Winged snowflake. Why did... Oh, I know why. I think that's okay lighting. It's not perfect, but it's good. There you go. I think I like that. Perfect. Okay, it is time for the render. The first render, so we can do post-production, which means plugging in one node. How about we do that now? There it is. Look at him. Isn't he beautiful? Look at his eyes. Do you see your own soul in it? The universe and everything? Okay. We're almost there. Oh, there it is. Perfect. I want you, Mr. Glare. Oh, okay. Very, very small. I think that looks pretty cool. A little glow on top of him. Okay. Render times 8. And resolution. There you go. Okay. Let's finish the render so we can go into Retopology. No, we need to do some more post-production in Photoshop first. There you go. Make sure to drink enough. Now's the time to do some drinking. Well, not alcohol, but, you know, water, for example. Of course, if you want to drink some alcohol, I'm not going to stop you, but, you know, maybe late night alcohol is not the best idea. I don't even know if late night alcohol is bad, but I can imagine, you know, sleeping by being drunk. I don't even know. I've never drunk alcohol, so I have no idea. You were only good with normal math problems. Bit of biology in school. Lump. Is that a name suggestion? Lump? Yeah, it was always the exact opposite. I remember the first, like the first worst grade you can get in school, I received in chemistry. I think just because I didn't know that we were writing a test, so I just, you know, didn't know anything, and I wasn't paying attention while in class, so, you know, I received the worst grade I could. Yeah, everything that I could kind of think about in my head, I would understand. But when it comes to stuff like interpreting a poem or math in terms of like the more, I guess, thinking required topics, it's kind of just over for me. I'm just gone. Lava lump moth. Oh no, isn't that the moth with these super hyper glowing eyes? There you go. Okay, it is time for Photoshop. Photoshop display capture doesn't work anymore, so how about display capture? There you go. There you go. Wait, I renamed it, or it has the wrong name. Let's correct that real quick. There you go. Okay. Hold on. What was it? Lava lump, lava lump, moth. Oh, meme. Are you sure it's called lump? You mean this one? World's largest lava lamp. Doesn't really look that big. Doesn't really seem that big. Yeah, I know this one of this moth, like always looking for the for the light lamp, but not the other one that you mean. Okay. First one, hold on. No, wait, what? Hold on. Lava lump. This one? Lava lump. Okay. Not gonna look at your memes ever again. Moving on. Okay, perfect. Oh, we need contrast and then the texture. Don't give me that emoji, okay? Okay, do we need... Oh yeah, we need the texture and then we're done. I hope you're very excited for retopology today. A very, very, very dry topic. I guess, you know, it's one of those topics that it's like, I guess you could say it's like drawing or sculpting pores or adding pores to a character. It's like just repetitive over and over and over and over and over again, but it's still important, so you have to pay attention while you do it. That's the worst, when it's repetitive, but still you still have to pay attention the entire time. So you're forced to, you know, pay attention rather than just doing it instead, without really thinking about it. But of course, we only need to do it once. I hope that we can use for the clothing pieces that are symmetrical that we can add to the model to, you know, begin, you know, the first clothing pieces that we'll add, we will include into the rig, which means I'll probably just use my retopology add-on for that. We don't need to retopologize every single model then. Actually, yeah. Oh, okay. Have you ever looked into it? I love to do repetitive, simple stuff. I might have some problems. I don't know. For me, like, it's so weird. Like, when I do something very, very repetitive for quite a long time, like 30 minutes or more, it's like I get like the heebie-jeebies, you could say, you know, like my body wants to do something different, but I, you know, try to stick to it, and it's like so difficult to just stick to it. I get distracted very easily. Yeah, that's why retopology, you know. Well, it depends on what kind of retopology you do. Sometimes it's quite monotonous, sometimes it's pretty cool. For example, the last retopology that we have done on stream was probably 2 or 3 months ago, where we created a piece for a competition, and we really needed to, or we created like robotic, like mechanical arms, which had multiple plates of like surrounding the main inner workings, which meant that we had to retopologize every single one of them, so that we can apply textures to them, which was quite annoying. But you know, I guess, you know, you just have to do what you have to do to get to proceed. Okay, used to grind a few hours each day in MMO, so I'm used with repetitive, boring stuff. Well, it's I think games are a little bit different because at least for me, that's something that I always that I discovered is when I do repetitive and boring stuff, for example in Blender, like retopology or adding pores or anything like stuff like that to a character, I get distracted very easily, or I get what do you call it? Like I don't really think about other stuff. I don't want to do other stuff while I do it. With games, it's no, I want to do other stuff, but then when it comes to games, it's different. Maybe it's the type of games that I play, but you know, when it comes to grinding, I'm not really against grinding. I don't really. I could grind a game like doing the same thing over and over and over again for like 5 hours or so because I've done it before, and I would never get bored. I don't know. Okay. Okay, it's done. We need to upload the image, otherwise it is not done. So how about we do that? Let me remove the countdown and then we can begin. There it is. Copy and wait, there it is. Okay, perfect. There it is. Okay. I get distracted too. I multitask. If it's either game data, entry in tables, I also listen to a podcast or watch a movie at the same time, and time just flies. Yeah. I always, when I work, either listen to something or watch like a video while I do it. I can't really work with nothing while listening to nothing. That's just not possible for me. I need at least something to listen to. Otherwise, the void just eats me up from the inside. Okay. I'm going to see you in 3 minutes, and then we're going to begin retopology. We're going to talk about the basics and the technique to nail the topology of any model, basically. Since I always do something else with the boring stuff, my brain got used to liking the other stuff, so I do not find the boring stuff boring. For me, it's always that I start doing the boring stuff, then I add something interesting, and then over time, the amount of attention that I pay to either kind of switches. So it's like, first it's, if you have two bar graphs, it's like this much attention for the boring stuff, this much attention for the interesting stuff, and then zzz, more. So I kind of have to pay attention to the attention graph, so I don't just pay full attention to whatever is interesting. Okay. Yep. 3 minutes, and then we're going to begin retopology. Hope you're excited. And hopefully, you can you find this helpful. I'm going to see you in 3 minutes, and then we begin. Of course, before we go into retopology, I'm not going to tease you. We need to finish the model, which means we need to connect to the hands to the wrists, which shouldn't take too long. So, yeah, we're going to do that first. Shouldn't take too long. So, yeah, 3 minutes, and then we're going to begin. Have fun. Okay, we are done with the first topic. It is time for the second one. No music. Oh no. The void is filling me up already. Hold on. Okay, I'm feeling way better now. Okay. Let's go into topic number 2. Retopology. Let's open up the figure, the character from yesterday. There it is. Okay, so I've changed a few things off screen or off stream, not that much. I've just added some more volume here and adjusted the shoulder a little bit. Nothing more as far as I know. You know, maybe we could. You know what? No, never mind. I think we're pretty good. We don't need to do anything more. I think we're in a good path. Although, hold on, let me look at one thing real quick. The space between the triceps and the sort of the back muscles is kind of interesting. Kind of hard for me to gauge whether or not maybe we need to remove some of this and bring more of the triceps in. But I think we're just going to leave it like this. What we want to do here though is, I also made the arms a little bit shorter. I think that helped. They look kind of long. Now they should fit a little bit better. Okay, so we have the hands, we have the arm, but the hands are not connected to the arm. So why don't we do that now? So let's go in here, and so we can either join them and then retopologize, but I think the better option would be to just use a Boolean and then basically add, like, remove the scene. So we're going to do that. Let me just quickly check. I think we have a good, the hands are in a good spot. They have enough detail to be used for the project. And if we want to add more, we can do that in after we retopologize. Because, after retopology doesn't mean that we can not go back into, scope mode. So yeah, let's connect the two. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so we're going to combine these two first, and then we can go into retopology. Oh, that's hopefully you can't hear that. Somebody's having it, like, you can hear the motor sounds outside, maybe, I don't know. Okay, let's combine the two pieces here. And then, yeah, we can close the seam. There you go. Good thing is with the Boolean option, we still keep the original object, so we can just, I guess, put the original hand model into the backup folder. Let's call it hand backup. There you go. Okay. You did? Oh no. Now you know where I live. Okay. Let's finish this. Okay. So the hands are in a good position. I think the hands have enough details that we can use them. But of course you can see the arm is quite low resolution, which isn't too bad for the retopology. But of course we can see there's quite a big difference in geometry right here that we need to fix. So let me first of all open up my references, then we can just fix that real quick, and then we can go into retopology. How long do you think it will be before Blender becomes the industry standard? I don't think it'll become industry standard. I think it will just be a tool that'll be used more often. It's already been used quite a lot in some studios. It gets better and better and better, but I don't think it'll replace, well, maybe it replaces programs that are like Maya. The only problem with that is usually the other programs like Maya or 3ds Max have a certain topic where they specialize in, for example, like retopology or texturing, which is hard, or which Blender isn't really good in. Blender kind of, has everything, but it's not like the master in anything. So it's a good tool to do everything in it, but it's not the tool to do anything most effectively in it, I guess you could say. I've heard a lot of people already say that they use Blender in the industry, you know. So it's more about using it more as another tool rather than replacing something. Oh, there you go. You've never utilized Blender? What do you mean? You've never used Blender? That would surprise me. One of the guys from Flip Normal said it's most likely that a new studio will show up that only uses Blender. It's hard for existing ones to switch. Yeah, that's why I said it's more about, for these big studios, for example, it's more about either that new people come in that already know Blender and can basically do the same in Blender that other people do in Maya, for example. Or of course there are studios that only use Blender that then of course you know, work exclusively with that. You've never used Blender? Wait, what? What are you telling me? Hold on, I need to check something real quick. There it is. Wait. I don't know what you mean. You've never used Blender, but you've submitted pieces to the feedback section. Maybe I'm just too dumb to understand. Okay. That's probably the case. Okay. So let's work on the wrist. Looking at the wrist, there's one thing that is quite significant when you look at the wrist. There's a specific bone that sticks out sometimes. You can see it right here. Oh, that was Maya stuff. Okay. Ah, okay. Didn't know that. Interesting. You can see it right here. See this bump? It doesn't. It's not really there if you do this, of course, if you bend it, because then I don't even know why. It's hard to explain. Maya and ZBrush. Ah, okay. Interesting. Maybe it's time to switch. No, I don't think so. I think if you use Maya in ZBrush, you don't really need to switch to Blender, except maybe for, I don't even know. So, as we said before, there are two bones in your arm. There's one bone on one side and then one bone on the other. And then one of the two bones is basically here, this bone. And then you have another bone that is next to this bone, kind of attached, that they sit right here. And when you rotate your arm, only one of the two bones moves. One of the bones is stationary and one of the bones rotates down here, which means that if you rotate your arm, one of the bones up here stays in one place and then the other one rotates. You can see it right here. It kind of wraps around the other bone. It's hard to explain. But that's where one of the bones kind of pokes out. You can see it right here. Sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't, depending on how you move your arm. Before we care about that, sort of create like at least some sort of transition here, and then we can go more into that. If you're wondering why I just mentioned that, I don't know. Okay. So if you look at the hand, the bone that sticks out is here, so on the opposite side of the thumb. You should give ZBrush a try sometime. I heard a lot of people say they they improved their sculpting fast on ZBrush compared to Blender. I've tried. Thought about making like maybe a test week in ZBrush just to kind of test, compare the two. Maybe we'll do that at some point. I think what is convenient about ZBrush is the ease of use or that you can do everything basically in like scope mode, because there's only scope mode in ZBrush, and also you're not really restricted to any geometry restrictions. You could just, well, maybe not use billions of vertices, but you can still use more than what you can do in Blender. So, I never really felt like I needed ZBrush, but I definitely had the feeling of, or I kind of wanted to try it at some point, just to kind of, get a feeling for it and kind of learn the workflow there. Also, one thing, looking at the hand, the bones are up here, and then you have muscles down here. So there's basically this sort of plate up here. The white part is up here, and then if you look at it from the front a little bit, can you see it? It's hard to show. If you look at your own wrist, you can see the whitest part is up here, and then it gets kind of thinner down here, where you have these muscles going into the hand. So the shape for the wrist is basically like these are the bones up here, and then it goes like this. So what we have to do here is we don't have to keep the thickness up here, or we have to remove thickness down here and keep the thickness up there. So what I mean is we just push this together like this, or we could also just remove the volume with the brushes to kind of create the actual real volume, make it look more like reality. We can maybe even make it a little bit thinner here. One thing we have to kind of keep in mind is that the arm is sort of rotated currently, so the muscles are also currently rotated. You can see how it kind of goes over here, and then it does a like 90-degree turn into the hand. You could, maybe place the hands like this as well, but I chose to do it like this because I think that is closer to the actual pose that we want to get to. Oh. There you go. Smoothing it some more. Look at it. Isn't it beautiful? No, not really. But it serves the purpose, okay? Oh, hold on. You forced me to open Streamlabs again. Unbelievable. Just because it doesn't work on my PC as a program. Hold on. Oh no. There it is. Welcome. Thank you for the subscription. Marcin HRN. Hope you enjoy the content. Maybe if you're here, hope you enjoy the stream. Okay. So I think the transition works quite well already. Yeah, so the thing that I'm kind of thinking about is, of course, because we add stuff like the gloves on top, we don't really need to go into too much detail when it comes to the fingers, for example. One thing we have to kind of account for, of course, is we will definitely see the fingernails. So welcome, Marcin. You're actually here live. Hope you had a great day. Hope you enjoyed your Thursday. Yeah, so we don't really need to think about the we don't need to think about stuff like over here, for example. Like this stuff isn't really that important because he's wearing like fingerless gloves, but stuff like the fingernails are definitely visible. So one thing that we probably will do is after we've retopologized, we will add a few more subdivisions, and then we add a some more detail to the model. Okay. So yeah, now we've added the hands to the model. We can now go into retopology. So let me just quickly check if everything is perfect and ready to be retopologized. Nope, don't look there, hold on. There you go. Make it Twitch friendly. There you go, perfect. Okay, yeah. I think everything's ready to be retopologized. So I wonder if this is actually, if we should remove this, because if he's wearing pants which are quite, let me see what kind of pants he wears, because if it's like super tight pants were in the crotch region, then it might be better to remove his crotch, I guess. No, it seems like they're quite, I guess, quite open there. No, actually not. Okay, we're gonna remove it just to be sure, you know. If we don't see it, then we don't need it. So, you know, I'm sorry. You're gonna lose your crotch. You're gonna be androgynous, okay? Hope that's okay for you. There you go. Okay. Okay. I think we're ready to do the retopology. Let me try one more thing. I wanted to try something real quick, which is right here. Oh. What if we pull this further in? Okay. Nutter him. Oh, that's a wide boy. Yeah, no, I think we're just gonna keep it like this. I think that's good. Looking at everything, you know, once we kind of go into retopology, it's hard to go back. Or, you know, we don't want to waste time retopologizing it again. So if we look at everything right now, we can kind of prevent that from happening. Maybe we can smooth this out some more. It doesn't have to be super ultra lean. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that should be enough. Okay. Let's get into retopology. I think the best way to start would be to look at some references to kind of talk about the general idea. Okay, so zip, there it is. We look at some references. So you can see my reference board here. I've added some retopology references here. This is a male reference. Here's a female male reference. There's another one. You know, it's always good to have references for everything that you do. For example, like retopology. First of all, it's just faster. You know, you don't really need to reinvent new geometry. If it works, then why don't we just emulate it? And also, you can just be more sure that what you do doesn't lead to failure, basically. Of course, failure can be a good teacher, but for stuff like this, I think this is more about getting to know the right topology rather than, I guess, developing your own. One thing that I want to highlight first is that there are different retopology resolutions for different use cases. What I mean is, when you think about retopology, you think about, or before you start retopology, you should think about what you want to use the character for. For example, like Nintendo, I don't know, DS games probably can't really work with super high topology models, high vertice count models, just because, you know, they don't have the processing power. Which means you need to reduce the amount of vertices that you can, or the amount of geometry, basically. What we do here is we create a high definition, basically, model that we can, for example, if you want, I guess, 3D print, or, you know, it's supposed to look good even if you go close to the character. That's, for example, why the Diablo 2 characters, for example, don't look like super crazy good, just because they're being looked at from far away. Even like League of Legends, which is a good name, which is a good game. Wait, what? No, it's a new game. And even though it's a new game, it still has very low poly characters, just because you don't really see them that close, you know, you don't really see them close up, so you don't need that much geometry. For our character, we want to make him even look good when we're close to him and with a lot of detail. So we will go for something more high resolution. What I mean by that is basically you can see that in the hands. When you think, for example, about the hands, there are certain cuts or certain edge loops, which basically means faces that connect to each other, which means, for example, you have an edge loop right here for the wrist that goes once around and then back into each other. So it's a ring basically. You have these edge loops in multiple spots. For example, you have one right here going from above the nose, nostrils, going over here, going around, and then connecting back up here. You have these edge loops to kind of build up certain structures of the face. For example, you have an edge loop around the eye, you have an edge loop around the mouth, you have an edge loop kind of around the mouth and nose, maybe even around the nostrils, depending on how you set up the geometry. And then the same for the ears. You can see this red edge loop right here on the outside. The edge loops are very good to build good geometry, basically, because you can see, for example, if you want to add more geometry, you can basically do that by just what is it? When you add a cut to something, hold on, I can't remember what it's called. When you add an edge loop, you can do that very easily by just, you know, applying it to one of these loops, and it stays in that area where you want it to apply to. So yeah, you can see, for example, these edge loops here, and these edge loops are located in a way that when you deform the finger, you can get good deformations in the finger, for example. Good deformations in the finger, of course, are more important when you want to have high quality characters. So you want to have more geometry in the fingers for good deformations when you want to have a high quality character. If you want to have a low quality character, you can probably even work with maybe 50% of the amount of geometry that you have here. It all just depends on what kind of character you're creating. To be honest, if he's mostly going to be covered in clothes, wouldn't it be easier to just add clothes and retopole them instead of the body? I think so. We could maybe add clothing, or like, we could sculpt clothing on top of him, make it part of the same sculpt. But I think it'll look better if we have them separated. Yeah, I think that'll just look better. And then, yeah, basically. I also thought about maybe using the character as some sort of base mesh maybe at some point. So, you know, if we just have the base mesh body without the clothing, I think that's a better, you know, base mesh. You can also see stuff like here. Yeah, I just decided to do it like that, you know, without adding the clothing before retopologizing. We're going to add them later. Okay, so we can see it right here. In the refs, you mostly see just the headrest is covered in clothes. Yeah, yeah. But I wanted to go through. So one reason why we went through the character like modeling and muscles and all that stuff is, first of all, to practice full body sculpting, and also just to go through full body sculpting on stream. And then I wanted to add a layer on top just to basically have the pieces separated, because then you can easier add, you can make it clearer that the clothing is separated from the body, because you have a clear separation between the two. It is also easier to add stuff like materials, because you can basically just say, well, you have a texture for the chest piece, you have a texture for the body. Otherwise, you would have to have a texture that incorporates not only the body but also the clothing, which can get quite complex. Okay. So, yeah. The idea is to separate the... Anybody watching this later, don't do what Noggy does, make your life easier to close and then plop a head there. Well, you can still see skin underneath here. There you go. And it's not, you know, it's not... it depends on what you want to do, you know? So, yeah. We can even use the retopology topology to create the clothing. So you can basically say, well, he has sleeves, so we can just use the geometry that we have here and then duplicate it and then use that as the clothing pieces. Yeah. Okay. So what the plan is basically to we're going to start with the head, and the technique that we're going to use is basically called divide and conquer. That is the technique that I guess the simplest technique to retopologize a character. Divide and conquer basically means that you build a mesh or a basically a mesh around all the different parts of the character. For example, you create a ring for the arms, a ring for the biceps or like the elbow, a ring for the shoulder, so that for every single step you have a ring set up, and then you separated basically the arm into multiple pieces, and then you can work on each individual piece to fill the rest of the geometry or the surface. This way you can focus first on the edge flow or the face, the edge flow, basically how the faces go through or over the body, and then afterwards you can think about how you want to fill the rest of the surface. For example, that is very important for stuff like the legs. You can see how these faces go into the crotch and then underneath. You could also maybe do it like this, how they like go horizontal. You could maybe do the same for the purple geometry or the purple faces. The problem with that is though, if he makes like, if he, for example, walks or stuff like that, we can get quite weird deformations, and it's also easier for the rigging to do it like this, because then, yeah, it's just the weight painting will be easier, because if we have clear separations where when you move your body, we would have clear basically folds or like creases. When you, for example, move your arm like this, you can see there's a clear crease in here, and that is basically because the two parts move together. It is easier to achieve the same goal with geometry if you create these clear edges that you can see here, for example. This way you can perfectly define where the biceps end and where the forearm begins, and this way you can distinguish, or you can basically you can apply the geometry that is part of the forearm easier to the, or you can distinguish the two easier and apply them to the bones that they're supposed to be a part of. Okay, so the plan will be to basically divide everything into smaller pieces first, and then we will fill that surface with the, we will fill these surfaces with the rest of the geometry. So, okay, let's begin with the face. Hold on, let's go to Blender. There you go. I like to start with the face and then go into the body afterwards. There you go. Okay. So, as we said before, the face has different or multiple loops that we can add, or basically multiple circles that we can utilize, or yeah, basically we can separate the face into multiple circles, which basically helps us create good deformations when we want to, you know, give him a different expression, for example. And it's also, yeah, basically, it's basically for deformations when you want to retopologize something. If you retopologize you always need to think about how the bones or how the geometry will react to the bones that you will add, and if the flow of these faces work according to the movement that you want them to make. Okay, which means we can already see this clear crease here. It wouldn't really make sense to add faces that go in this direction, because then you would have this zigzag sort of pattern, which would create a zigzag crease, which looks kind of weird at the end. Okay, to begin retopologizing, we need a new geometry. So how do we add a new geometry? Who would have guessed? We just add a plane. We're going to start with a plane, because what we basically do for retopology is replacing the old geometry with new geometry, with new faces, basically with faces that have 4 sides to them, because faces with 4 sides are, I guess, the best ones to, well, they're not necessarily the best ones, but they provide the best deformations. Okay. There you go. There you go. So this will be the beginning phase. One more thing. Of course, because the character is symmetrical, we only have to work on one side. So we can save 50% of the time by using a mirror modifier. So what we do first, we prepare the geometry to use it on the character. What we want to do is basically we want to apply the geometry. We want to stick the geometry to the surface so that we basically replace the old geometry with new, basically clean geometry. We don't want to lose volume. We don't want to get more volume. We basically want to get it as close as possible to the current surface so that we only emulate the volume and keep the new geometry. How do we stick geometry to a surface? We can use the snapping option here. If we set it to face and then in project individual all elements, effect, rotate, scale, we can then move the plane and it'll stick to the surface of the model. Even if we rotate it, it does the same. Hold on, we can show that if we do this. It sticks to the surface. So we will now basically do this, and then what we can do is if we go into edit mode and we go to the individual vertices, if we move the individual vertices, you can see they also stick to the surface because we have ticked the box project individual elements. Because we have ticked the box, each individual vertice sticks to the surface. To make the deformations a little bit cleaner, we can do one more thing. We can apply a shrink wrap modifier. The shrink wrap modifier is more important when you add subdivision surface, when we add more resolution to the geometry. We don't really need to right now, so we can just remove it. One thing that we can still do to make it clearer what is the geometry, or I'm going to show you what we want to prevent. So if we go in here and we move these two, for example, over here, and then the other ones we'll put over to the forehead, you can see how they go through the surface. We don't see them anymore. But of course, if you want to use this new geometry, we need to know where it is to kind of stick it to the surface. To make it easier to see the geometry that we work with currently, we can go into the shader settings. No, before we do that, we can go into the object properties in this orange box right here. And then we can tick the box in front. This basically brings the geometry in front of anything that is in front of it. So even if the face is completely hiding, or even if this object is completely inside of the face, inside of the head, you can still see it through the head. This helps us see what the shape of the current retopologized model is. One thing we want to do, I want to place this back into the middle. There you go. So we can then use the mirror modifier. One more thing that I want to do though is I want to enable backface culling, which is already enabled. What that basically does is when you look at a face from the other direction, so basically the normal shows in this direction here. If you look at the face from the opposite side, you see nothing. That helps a lot when you, for example, work on this side, on the ear, then this ear is done and you switch to the other side. It can be quite confusing to still see the geometry of the opposite side's ear on this side while you're working on it. So backface culling basically helps with that. It kind of removes the geometry that you don't want to see anymore, because, you know, you want to see the geometry through the face or through the original geometry, but you don't want to basically see it when you're working on a different surface. One thing that I want to fix real quick is the ear. You can see these weird spikes right there. I think we can clean those up real quick and then we can continue. There you go. A little bit more. Perfect. Now it's cleaner. Okay. Let's go to Retopology. There's one more thing that we can do to separate the two objects a little bit better. We can either use the good old random shading, so we can see which is the retopologized geometry and which is the other one. We can do another thing that we can do to kind of make it even more obvious, because these colors are quite close to each other. We can go to a material, create a retopology material. Let's call it Retopo. And we make it pink. There you go. And then if we go to viewport display, we can set the color here. Let's make it purple, and now, pink, and now we can see the geometry that we work with is pink. We can also change stuff like the metallic, so it's a little bit darker and more reflective. We don't really need that. Roughness kind of gives it either more reflections or less. We can probably set it to 0.4 again. Okay. So yeah, this is just to make it clearer which geometry is which, to separate the two objects from another. We can also, if we want to, we can make this geometry or the model that we work on, we can make it unselectable, so we don't, accidentally select this instead of the other one. So let's do that real quick with this icon up here, this disable selection icon. If you don't see this, you can go into the filter tab right here and then enable it, which is this one right here. This icon lets you basically lock objects. Now if we try to click, it doesn't work. So now we can freely work with this and it still will snap to the surface. One more thing, as we said before, is now that we have it set up in a way where it snaps to the surface, edit is a different color so we can separate it from the original geometry. There's one more thing we need to do. We need to double our speed by using a mirror modifier. Now if we go into edit mode, of course, we can separate the two faces. There you go. And then if we enable clipping, we can stick them together. There you go. Perfect. And now, we only need to work on one side. Okay. Let's begin setting up the first loops for the character. The first loops are basically pretty simple to set up. So we can begin with the most simple ones, which are the eyes and the mouth. We have of course one circle for each eye, and then we have one circle for the mouth. Let's set those up first. The way we do that is we can basically enable vertice select and edge select at the same time by pressing 1 for vertice select, and then we can press shift 2 to enable edge select as well. This way we can select either edges or vertices at the same time without having to switch between the modes again all the time. Now we can basically place these rings on the eyes. I want to separate the two pieces again, just because, these rings aren't really connected. So, it makes sense to separate them. There you go. So we're going to create rings for the eyes first. We always want to have faces. We want to have four-sided faces for the eye. So we're going to begin probably... Oh, okay. So the easiest way to begin basically setting up geometry is to create a big area first and then separate that area into smaller faces until you have enough. So what you can do here, for example, is you can go in here and bring it all the way to the end like this. you can then bring it up to here. And then you can do one more, which brings us all the way to here, like this. Then we have this crazy, these two crazy stretched faces. What we can do now is we can basically just add either 2 or maybe 3 more cuts and push them up to create a, a better circle around the eye. There you go. We try to kind of include the entire eyelid. One more thing that is more important when you want to create a base mesh is that all the faces have the same size. This way, stuff like subdivision will create better results when it comes to the surface look, you could say. What I mean by that is, if you have edges that are close together on a mesh, and you then apply a subdivision surface modifier, what happens is that this edge or these faces that are close together compared to the surface surrounding them or the geometry surrounding them, they create a sharp, or they create a like squash effect where you have this weird like pinching on the surface. Even though it's smooth, you can still see this sort of weird pinching. You can avoid that by having clear geometry, basically. So this is the upper part of the eye, and then of course we have the lower part of the eye as well. So we just grab it again, and then we do the same at the bottom. One thing we want to look out for, of course, if we create a ring, is we want to see that the geometry down here looks the same, or is basically parallel to the one up here. What I mean by that is basically that we want to have the same amount of edges down here that we have up there, because if we then go inside the eye hole, we need to, it's easier to fill the eye hole if we have the same amount of geometry here. Okay, let's do the eye first. Let's finish the eye. You can see some weird twisting there. That is probably just because of the normal for the eye. Maybe if you could just go a little bit closer, that could probably help. Maybe. Yeah, perfect. That looks better. So we go around the eye first. We can see we have 3 cuts right here. We have already 1 there, so we need 2 more here. There you go. Let's do the same on this side. We have 3 here, so we add 3 cuts. And we place them around the eye. There you go, make them a little bigger. There are different ways how you can place your geometry. What I mean is, if you, for example, Google Disney versus Pixar retopology or Disney versus Pixar face topology, you can see there are different ways how they place their geometry. Both works, but they're just placed in a slightly different way. We can maybe look at that on stream real quick. Disney versus Pixar face geometry. Maybe that works. Can we say comparison? Let's see. Maybe face topology. There's a small difference between the two that doesn't really make a huge impact, but oh, there it is. Okay, so the big change is basically, you can see the topology right here. I don't know which one is which, but one of the two creates circles around the eye, which don't really connect, but at some point you have this n-gon. N-gon is basically a vertex that connects to, that has more than 4 connecting edges. You can see here it has 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is where these circles connect. So this one has circles around the eye, around the nose and mouth, and the other one has geometry that goes basically from the mouth around the eyes and then back to the mouth. So it basically includes the mouth, or it goes from the mouth around the eyes rather than keeping the eyes disconnected from the mouth. It's not really a huge difference. You can kind of decide for yourself which one you want to use. Maybe one of them is more intuitive for you. Maybe one of them is easier for you. Yeah, it's just preference. Can you see it there? No, not really. Okay. So we have the topology for the eyes. Let's go to the next part. I don't want to, so of course we need to fill the room around the eyes as well. But what I want to focus on first is basically creating the frame for for all the features of the face. The next feature that we could do here is either the nose or the mouth. Let's go to the nose first. What we can do here is basically we can go here, we can grab the face, we can drag it down, and then we can begin creating the loop down here. We can add a face, so we can begin a new face loop right here by, for example, connecting it here. So we include the nose into the loop. There you go. Maybe we need more geometry later. Maybe not. We'll see. There you go. So we include the nose, and then we basically go around the mouth. So we can basically just begin by doing this. There you go. Doing the same down here. Oh. There you go. Now we have included the mouth. And then we can add some more geometry to shape this more into a round shape. Like this. Down here as well. There you go. If we want to, we can add even more. But the less geometry we add, the easier it'll be to change the geometry if we need to. You know, sometimes we look at it and we see, well, maybe the vertices need to be moved somewhere else or slightly differently placed. We can do that way easier if we have, you know, not these edges basically in here. Let's remove them. There you go. If we have a very simple geometry, it's just way easier to move all the stuff. Okay. I think what I'm going to go for is the way where you go from the mouth around the eyebrow or around the eyes. So we can now basically grab one of these here. We can probably separate this. There you go. And now we grab this face and go around the eye and basically include the forehead now. There you go. And then we go into the middle. So now we have included everything, or we basically now framed the entire face, and we could, if you wanted to, now fill the rest of the space in this frame with the geometry, if you wanted to. But I think what we want to do first is frame everything, or maybe everything in the face, and then we can go into the rest. Let's do the ears. We're going to add a cut right here. So we can branch off of this sort of circle. Maybe we can even add a one right here to make it smoother. There you go. Maybe even up here. There you go. Now we can branch off here and go to the ear. There you go. We create another branch off point, and then we go create a circle around the ear. So we can kind of create an individual zone for the ear. We do that by just doing this. We always just use E for extruding, and of course rotating and scaling to place the geometry. You know, retopology in itself, using the tools isn't really that hard, but the more important part is knowing where and how to place the geometry to achieve good deformations. There you go, we connect it again. Now we have a frame around the ears on both sides, of course. What we can do now is we could go to the mouth. We can frame the mouth a little bit better because there's another circle around the mouth. So why don't we do that now? One thing that if you have already done this, what happens for this sort of frame around the eyes, it then kind of ends right here in the corner of the mouth, like this. There you go. And then, there you go. This is the perfect jumping off point for the circle around the lips. So why don't we do that now? So we go to here, include everything right there. Faces are quite small, so we can probably extend them a little bit, make them bigger. There you go. So we have the upper part of the lips included. Let's go to the lower part. Oh. There you go. Okay, now we have basically framed the lips. We have framed the eyebrows or the face itself. We have framed the eyes. We can also now frame the nose. There's one thing that I always wondered, which is why, for example, for the nose topology, so many people create a special loop around the nostril. I can show you why I wondered that. There you go. You can see it right here. You can see how there's a circle around the nostril basically, and then it goes into the nose hole. There's an alternative to this, which doesn't include this circle right here, which looks, I think it's in here. You can see it right here. There's no, I guess, special like geometry for the nostril. It just kind of goes over the nose. I've used this one before, and I don't really know if this gives any, if this brings better results. What I always had trouble with this is kind of connecting them all together here in the nose hole. Yeah, I guess we could go with this if we want. We could also go with the other alternative. I think the other alternative is a little bit simpler, and we don't really have that any like stretching parts where we don't have any stretching parts at the nose, so it's not really that important which geometry is there. We just need, you know, geometry there. So let's just create basically circles around here, around the nose hole. That is the alternative. So we need to go to here and create another circle around the nose hole. So basically what we do in the beginning is basically we just place circles to section off different parts of the face. That is the beginning of the retopology. So we divide first and then we conquer by filling the rest of the surface. Oh, there you go. So now we have created a circle for the nose. We can, you know, add maybe one more cut to make it rounder. There you go. Oh. Okay, now we've created a circle around the nose. Perfect. Okay. So now the next step would be going either around the head or going to the neck. I think we can start with going to the neck. What we want to do here is basically create a circle around the neck like a choker, so we can separate the face, or we can create a clear loop basically around the neck that you can also see in the, in here, in the reference, these lines right there. So we grab the middle piece. We just add a cut down here so we can go down. We can, you know, branch off. Following the geometry. And then we go all the way down here. Probably two over here. What we can do now is we can just create a new cut to section off here. And we go around the neck. make it smoother by adding maybe 1 or 2 more cuts. There you go. Now we have a good loop around the neck. One thing that we need now is we need to go over to the, we need to go to the neck from the other side. So from the back of the head. So we grab another cut right here. And we go up. The first cut here in the middle is pretty straightforward. Basically just going around the entire model. Just straight through the middle. When we get to filling the space, it gets more complex. We can probably make the faces here a little bit broader or wider. In general, it is, good to have quite dense geometry in the face because the face has so much detail in it. And there are so many small deformations that, having more geometry in the face than in the body, for example, makes sense. It's maybe not really necessary for us because the model, we can't really see the face except maybe for the eyes. Okay, now we went to the neck. One thing we can also do is we can go from the ears to the back of the head. Let's do that. Still separating or dividing. There you go. And then one more thing, which is quite a clear line, is the chin. You can see it right here, or the chin basically. Not the chin, the jawline. You can see a clear line right here. So we can also use a face that, or an edge loop going over the jaw basically, or kind of framing the jaw. There are different sort of ways to do it. Some people really highlight sort of the line of the jaw. Some don't really do it. Some just use their faces and go over it. Kind of, some parts are preference, some parts are just, I guess, maybe not preference, but more good to do. Mostly, it always comes down to what you want to achieve with the geometry. When you want to do animations, of course, the geometry has to be on point. If you only want to retopologize to apply textures, it's not that important whether or not the geometry is, perfect. As long as it has, lower geometry and good topology that you can sort of lay out as a UV map. So what we'll do here is we will create probably another cut right there. And then we go to the jaw like this, and then we just go around again. There you go. This way we keep this sort of edge right there. Okay, now we framed most of the face. We could go into the ear if you wanted to, but it's not really time yet to do so. I think it's we can still work on dividing everything. One thing I want to show you is the back face culling, what it does. So looking at the geometry right now, you can see the faces are sort of translucent. We can see the outline, but we can't see this pinkish color. And that is because of the back face culling. If I would enable this, and you would have to imagine that this geometry is already fully developed, the ears probably is fully retopologized. If we would then work on this side, we would be completely confused. We would be completely confused by this geometry if we would work on this side, for example. Of course, we have mirror. We have the mirror modifier on here, so we would not work on the exact same piece on the other side. But for example, if we look at this and we already have, fully retopologized the neck, working on the ear, like over here, it's kind of weird. We can't really see the surface anymore of the ear. We can only see the already retopologized geometry. That's why we enable backface culling, so we don't see that anymore. That just helps us, you know, actually see the geometry that we want to. So we can, for example, go around the ear like this. Okay. So we have the face. One thing we can do, maybe we can go here in the middle of the face, sort of the horizontal line, not the not the Y axis, but the X axis. We can add another cut right here. So let's do that right now. There you go. Do the same up here. There you go. Do the same up here. There's a specific retopology tool in Blender, which I've never used before. I actually want to try it though. So let me see if I can find it actually. Hold on. It should be in here somewhere. Is it the poly build? There it is. So what that does is basically, as far as I understand, if we select an edge. No. How does it work? How does that work? I don't know. There's some sort of way how you can pull out new faces out of existing vertices. I don't know how it works. Create quads, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. It could be useful, but I just use the normal functions like extrude, scale, and rotate. Okay. So we framed the head now, basically. What we could do now is we could, you know, go through the entire head and fill the surface. I think what I want to do first, though, is I want to create a cage around the entire body so that we can set up the entire, basically, flow of the body before we fill the surface. One thing we could maybe do here is we could create another ring around the forehead or the upper head, just because we can see how much volume we lose here. So we can probably do that real quick. There you go. We add one more right there. This one will go around the head, basically. And now we get to an interesting part. Now we get to how you can redirect edge loops. We want to create a loop around the head, basically, like this. But as you can see, all these faces basically only go in one direction, which is like this. They all go in this direction. So how do we go from here? And this face, of course, goes in this direction. So how do we move like this? How do we move like this? Let's talk about that. Okay, so the way you do that is, first of all, you need to meet these edges. First of all, we need to create a loop that can connect. So we want to bring these two together. And it's actually pretty simple. So how you do that is basically just you grab one, you rotate it slightly, and then you grab the other one and connect them. The loop itself is not really the hard part. Then afterwards, adding the geometry around it could be harder. Now that we have this sort of, I guess, turning point or not, what you would have to do now is you would create a sort of triangle shape around it. What I mean by that is basically, we can probably show it here. If we bring this edge, if we want to create geometry around this sort of turn right here, what we would have to do is we would have to do this, and we would have to do the same on this side. There you go. And then what would happen is we would move this edge loop horizontally, and we would move this edge loop back again. I'm going to show you what that looks like. It would look like this. So now we have this sort of, the turn creates two turns basically. Let me look at the here. So this face still just goes back in this direction. This face doesn't change the direction. But now we created the turn right here, like this. And then we also created a turn for this geometry right here. What we could do is probably create geometry that goes in this direction if we wanted to, but then we would have an n-gon. An n-gon, as we said before, is basically a vertice that has more or less than 4 edges, or no, that has more or less than 4 vertices connected to it. So if this would be a vertice, and you have this would be a normal vertice. I can't even remove this, hold on. If we would have this, this would be an n-gon, and also this would be an n-gon. This one has 3 connections, this one has 5 connections. It could have more, of course, but we're going to stick with 5 and 3 for this example. We always want to avoid we want to achieve as little amount, or we want to keep the amount of n-gons that we have in our retopology model as small as possible, because n-gons, first of all, basically are harder to create good deformations with, and also they can lead to some weird subsurface, or yeah, subsurface, no, not subsurface scattering, subdivision behavior. So now you can see this, there's an n-gon right here for the turn, but if we would do, if we would do this, hold on, there you go. Well, it's still the same. No, we have 2 n-gons here. We have one right here, which has 3, and this one has 5. To reduce the amount of n-gons that we have in this geometry, we grab this edge and loop it around the turn. One thing that can be quite important when it comes to filling the geometry is how you can either, well, redirecting we already know, but how you can reduce the amount of faces that you have. For example, we said before, the faces, or the face usually has more geometry than, for example, the body, and that is just because there's more detail in the face and there's more, small deformations in the face. So how do you, for example, go from 4 faces to 3 or even less? You can go from 4 all the way to 1, but of course it's cleaner if you stick with the same geometry, but if you need to, of course, you can still do this this trick. So how do you go, for example, from 4 to 3? There are different ways how you can minimize the amount of geometry that you have. One way is to just redirect one edge, sort of edge flow. All these faces go in this direction, but then if we, for example, do this, now you only have 3 faces right here, because you moved the 4th one and made a 90-degree turn backwards. This way you reduce it from 4 to 3. Another way you can, or how you can move from 4 to 2 is, for example, by doing the same down here as well. Hold on. Like this. Now, there you go. Now, you have only 2 faces, because you basically created a loop between these 2 faces. You basically merged them together. And with sort of redirection of faces, you can basically reduce the amount of edge loops that you have in a certain space. It could be quite important, for example, when you do that on hands. N-gons, aren't N-gons legal? You know, so for example, for games, we said before, N-gons are also stuff like triangles. N-gons aren't illegal. They can be quite useful in some areas. For example, for game engines, usually every game engine turns geometry that is made out of faces into triangles. So, you know, if you already have triangles, that wouldn't really make a big difference. But then if you, for example, move your geometry that has triangles to ZBrush, ZBrush will, I think it just removes the triangles. So you just have holes in the geometry, as far as I know. So it depends on what you want to do with it. But in some areas, you even want to have triangles to reduce the amount of geometry of an object. So if you want to optimize, for example, a knife, it very likely makes more sense to only work with triangles rather than with like four-sided faces, just because you can reduce the amount of geometry or the vertices that you have on an object way more with triangles than what you can with like four-sided faces. And also, for example, for a knife, you don't really have any deformations, so you know you don't really need four-sided faces. It just depends on what you want to do with it. Okay, so now we have created the loop around the forehead. Let's go around the back as well. We do the same here as well. We kind of want to see that we're on the same height. Okay, we can move this up. Use this. There you go. Okay. So we want to move from here and rotate it around again. There you go. Oh. We do the same here as well. So we go, for example, from down here. You can already see a good edge flow here. You can see we can go from this edge to this edge, to this edge, to this edge, to create a nice edge flow all the way down to the neck. So we just add one more edge loop right here, or cut, to create faces that follow this sort of flow. There you go. Now we can connect these, and we can build around this this turn. There you go. And we create another edge right here to connect them. There you go. We could probably move this further back a little bit. There you go. Okay. And this way we basically, yeah, frame this as much as we can. We divide it as much as we can. And then afterwards we can go into filling the rest. So one thing we could do, well, we can go in here and connect this. So now we've, you know, divided it even more. We could say, well, we can go from here. Probably we can use this one, maybe even. I think we would rather use 1, 2, 3. Let's use this one. There you go. Perfect. And this way we can connect them more and more and more, make the spaces between the framing, I guess, less and or smaller and smaller and smaller. And this way you can, yeah, basically fill it more and more and more. Yeah. One thing to keep in mind, there's one n-gon that you basically cannot get rid of. And that is an n-gon that is placed underneath the eyes over the mouth. There you go. You can see it right here. This geometry has an n-gon right here. You can see it right there, which basically connects the circle that goes around the eyes with the circle that goes around the mouth. You can see it here as well. You can see here it is placed right there. It is underneath the circle that goes around the eye, and you have a circle that goes around the mouth. There will always be an n-gon somewhere around here. There's no way you're not going to have that. Let's look at this one. You can see it here as well. Where you place it is kind of your, you know, you can decide. this area isn't really prone to crazy deformation, so it's not really, it's in a good place there. Okay. Why don't we add that n-gon now? So what we can do now is we can basically increase the range of the hold on, let me actually remove these. There you go. Oh, wait, what? Okay, so let's create another ring around the eyes. So we can just go in here and create an edge like this. So now we can decide where we want to place the n-gon. We could either decide that we, we can either decide that we use this edge loop to go around the eye, or we go to the mouth. That is basically the deciding factor where the n-gon will be placed. If we go around the eye, then it'll be placed lower. If we go around or go to the mouth, the n-gon will be placed higher. I think what we're going to go with is we're going to go to the mouth here. I think that's good. That's a good flow, going from here, like over here. There you go. So what we can do is we already have this sort of loop going around here. We will probably move these faces also down to the mouth. Let's just say we add a cut right there, so we can connect these faces right there. And then we say, there you go. Perfect. Now what we could do is we could say, well, we can now connect these two faces, and now we already have filled the space in between. Of course, we need more geometry to kind of define the volume even more. But we could do that if you wanted to. One thing that I want to do is I want to finish the edge in the middle, or the loop in the middle. So let's go from the chin to the lips. There you go. Then we go over the lips, or, you know, basically over the lips. There you go. One thing to keep in mind, if you want to open your mouth, you need to go into the geometry if you haven't added a mouth already in your sculpt. So basically what you want to do here, if you want to create a, like, I guess like a inner mouth, you would remove snapping so that you can go into the geometry like this. And then you could create a like a bag in here. That's how you can create a, I guess, openable mouth. You can separate the lips that way. But of course we don't need that, so we can just go from here all the way to the upper lip. There you go. Oh, perfect. Let's go to over the nose. Oh, hello. There you go. And then we go right here, do the same. Go to the tip. Oh, hold on. Why is it so low? Looks kind of weird. Oh, I have disabled snapping, that's why. Always trying to make the distribution of faces as even as possible. And there you go, we already are at the bridge of the nose. Now we only need to go over the forehead. There you go. Maybe one more here. And then connect it right there. So now we basically, yeah, framed most of the volume that is part of the face. One thing we could do is, for example, go from here. We could add a cut right there to go and connect the two eyes. like this. So we can now separate this completely. And yeah, we can go into more and more detail with these basically left spaces. Let me just add a few more cuts where we can define basically the face or the volume, where we can frame the volume, and then we can go to the next step, which would be going to the body. The body has some, I guess, special areas, for example, for the elbow, that has special geometry around it to kind of support the special, I guess you could say, deformations. We talked about it before with these clear creases. Let me just quickly finish the geometry here, or the framing. So we could, for example, now add, well, no, we're going to leave it like this. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay. There you go. So now we've basically caged the face or the head. Let's go to the body. So for the body, as we said before, we want to kind of section off the individual limbs. You have the level 1 limb, which is connected to the spine, basically. So you have the chest, including the hips, and of course the crotch. Then you have the legs, including, not the butt. No, the butt is included in the core. We have the legs separately. We could say we have the feet separately. Then we have the arm separately, and then we have the hand separately. So let's kind of section off these pieces first. What we can do first, of course, we can just say, well, we can move this all the way down first. There you go. That's the first step. Establish the first line. And then let's begin with the separation. So I'm gonna rotate this weirdly like this because I already have like geometry in mind, which will come later. What I basically do here is I want to create a loop, basically following this line, like this, and that's why I create this sort of triangle. Oh. There you go. There you go. First border will be built right here. We want to include the butt, so we have to kind of create a turn right here. Or we start a little bit lower. What if you move your leg? Okay. I think what we can do here is we can actually go a little bit lower with this. We can go to here. Include the bone, the pelvis bone. Go down like this. And then we could create a turn right here and include the butt as well. But we can also just use geometry that comes from up here and include the butt. I think that creates a better geometry. So we just go in here and go around to the middle. There you go. So now we've sectioned off the legs from this part here, from the core. Let's separate the arm from the core. Of course, if you wanted to, you could also create edges to support the structure of the chest, for example, by doing this here. There you go. Which we will definitely do, so we can keep it like this. There you go. For the middle of the body, you only really need edges or edge loops because it's basically just like a cylinder. You know, the arms are like cylinders. The middle core here is like a cylinder. You have some areas that kind of need some more work, but mainly the limbs are basically cylinders. Okay, let's separate the shoulder from the arm. Let me drink something real quick. Okay, so how can we separate the shoulder from the rest of the body? The best way to do that would probably be to create an edge loop that goes from here around the shoulder, including the shoulder, and then, yeah, basically back into down here. So what we can do is we can probably begin right here, like this. Oh. There you go. This one will go underneath, like like this. You can see a problem arises. We can see the geometry still, so we don't really know where the surface of the, for example, for where the arm kind of merges into the body. We can't really see that here because we can see the geometry up there. That gets partially solved with back face culling, but we see the correct side of the face, so we still see it. Okay, so now we have an edge for the body to separate the body from the arm. Let's do the same for the shoulder. So we go up to the shoulder, basically like this. We make a turn, as we've done for the head, right here. Zip. And we include the shoulder. We make another turn right here. So we go down like this. And now we have created an edge loop that separates the core or the neck from the shoulder. There you go. So now we've separated the core from all the limbs. What we can do now is, for example, work some more on connecting the pieces here. We could work on separating the individual limbs for the arms, for example, going, to the arm, to the hand. I think what we're going to do first is we're going to frame the body or the core a little bit more, and then afterwards we will go to the limbs. One thing I kind of adopted from one of the topologies that I looked at is to create a, hold on, I can show it to you. To create a sort of block around the neck. You can see how these round edges, these round loops turn into this sort of cube shape, or this sort of plane shape. That creates quite good just geometry for the rest of the body. So we will adopt that. You can see this one here is a little bit different. You can see this one, well, it's still almost the same, but it's rounder. The big change, or the big difference between this geometry, and this one is, for example, here on the neck, we have a loop that kind of frames the Adam's apple, or the muscles that kind of go from the ear to the clavicle bone, I think, right here. There's a special loop that you don't really have here. We don't really need it, so we will probably go with the simpler method, like this. You can see it right here as well, just kind of straight down. There's no loop here. So let's create this sort of cube shape, or this we can do that pretty simply. We already have the prerequisite for it. We can go over here and create a frame that goes from here to there. Oh, there you go. And then we do the same in the back. Wait. There you go. Oh, wait. There you go. If you basically create a cut, adding the cut doesn't enable snapping, only if you move the geometry with G or rotate it or scale it, then it will apply the snapping effect. So sometimes it kind of, if you only, if you only do this, it doesn't. You can see how it's still in the geometry if you have to move it to place it on the surface. It can be quite confusing sometimes why the deformations are weird. You just have to move it once. Rain? What do you mean? Wait, is it raining outside? Hold on. No, it's just, I thought you might have heard rain outside, through the window, but nope, there's no rain outside. Probably, maybe the music, I don't know. Maybe noise in my microphone, I don't know. Shouldn't be. Okay, so now we have this nice cube shape. So what we could do now is we could kind of, I guess, fill this frame if you wanted to, but let's actually go into something else. Let's go to the, so we basically now fully separated the core from the shoulder, or the limbs from all the limbs. What I want to do here now is I want to create a clear edge loop around the body. We don't really have that right now. We have an edge loop that goes over here. We have an edge loop that goes over here. We have one for the chest, but we don't have an edge loop that just goes around the body completely. So we can probably we can create another loop right here. There you go. That follows the structure of the chest first. And then it kind of sections off right here. There you go. We could either section it off. Oh, okay. Some heavy rain. Oh no. one here we so yeah, we will create an n-gon here, but the n-gon isn't really like, well, okay, no, we're not going to create an n-gon right there. We actually will lead this in here. There you go. We will reinforce sort of the structure of the chest by adding another loop right here, and then we will create the real edge loop going around the body. One here, it was raining so much that, because we are living in an apartment on the lowest floor, like the ground floor, there's somebody above us with a like a balcony, and for some reason, I think on the balcony there's some area where just water just rests, or can just rest. There's some sort of crack, I guess, in the floor, which meant that it went through the floor, through the ceiling, into one of our rooms. It just like dripped down. I think even multiple rooms. We had to set up some buckets so to catch all the water. It was quite eventful. But it, luckily it never happened again. It could probably happen again, but never happened. Okay, so what we do here now, we move off of the main edge flow to create an edge that goes around the entire body. So we select this edge and just go off of it. There you go. We can fill this quite easily by just creating a flow that goes like this. Oh. Okay, so let's continue this edge, go around the body. Let's create 2 cuts right here for it to receive the edge or the face loop. There you go. Perfect. Now we have a loop around the body underneath the chest. We basically have a loop going around the body or around the neck up here as well. If we finish this turn, let's do the same down here. We can see we go down like this and then underneath here and create a sort of curve here. What we also want to have is an edge loop that goes horizontal over here. I guess we could connect to this edge if we wanted to, or we just create a completely new edge up here. Let's create it maybe right there. There you go. And then we can go right underneath this this muscle. This might be too high. We can probably place it even lower. Maybe over here. There you go, to create some room for the rest of the geometry here. We could maybe place this higher if you wanted to. Maybe above, maybe that's better. There you go. Okay, now we have an edge loop going around the waist. We can now add some more geometry here if you wanted to kind of stick it more to the surface. But of course we kind of know where it kind of goes around, so we can work already with this. Okay, so now we basically have created a good frame for the for the core. We could maybe add one more edge that goes from up here on the side down on the side if we wanted to. I think we can do that, and then we should have every part covered basically. We could do the same up here. Hold on. So connecting this one to right there. There you go. We already covered it right there. Let's cover it down here. Oh, it might be a good idea to save. Let me go back to Blender. There you go. Okay. So let's create another cut right here. You can see how hard it can get to place the vertices in the right position because you can't really see the surface underneath. There you go. And then we go over here. And there you go. Now we have a horizontal edge as well. So we quartered the body, if you want to say so. Okay, let's go to the arms. No, let's go to the legs first. I think the legs are a little bit easier. So for the legs, we would basically create another edge that follows this and like goes around the legs. Yeah, let's actually do that. Hold on. So we go from here, create another edge so we can begin the leg geometry. There you go. Let's go to the inside first. Going to the inside can be quite hard to place the geometry, but you know, it has to be done. Oh, hold on. Let's finish the edge here in the middle. There you go. Oh, wait. So now we have finished, we've completely finished the line in the middle, the mirror axis. Let's go to the legs again. Okay, hold on, there it is. Wait, what is this? What happened here? Okay. There you go. And then we separate right here. So we only include the legs, not the ass. Okay. There you go. So there's a weird transition here, which basically we wanted to use geometry up here to sort of frame the bud. So what we have to do here is we have to go up here and kind of finish the loop like this. Otherwise, it doesn't really work. There you go. So we won't create a perfect edge loop around the legs up here. Up here, like on the bud. But once we kind of reach this level, we can then basically do this. Okay. Let's let's create one of these edge loops. So we begin by sectioning or kind of branching off again to here. And then maybe we can do it a little bit later over here. Maybe actually over there. I think that's a better turn. Oh. There you go. Now we have basically the perfect ramp to create the edge loop, to separate these two edge loops from each other. There you go. We go around, align the first edges already, so we can just connect them. Next one. And then we bring it back together right here. Oh. Keeping in mind that there will be some geometry right here that still needs some space, so we can connect them right there. So this is the interesting part here. The crotch geometry is kind of weird because we start right next to this edge, we go around, but because there's some space right here, we need to keep some space, and then we somehow have to get back to this edge. Let me quickly think about that. That's kind of weird. Oh, I think... No. Wait, oh, hold on. No, that doesn't make sense. Wait. Oh. No, that doesn't make sense. Well, that's where it comes, where it gets to like an interesting part, where you kind of have to figure out how to place the geometry to still frame the volume, but also respect the edge loops that you want to keep. So I basically want to create a loop that goes around the body, but I also want to create an edge loop that frames. We kind of have to transition from the hip to the legs. There's another alternative geometry that we could use, which basically uses a V shape, not only on the on here, like on like it includes the booty into the legs. We could use that one as well. I think I want to try that one. So let's just remove all this, or almost everything. What we basically use here, no, we actually don't need to remove everything. We need to remove these faces. Maybe not this one, hold on. Okay, so what we'll do here is this will just stay the same loop, but then what we do here in the front is let's look at this later. Let's go to the legs first. So for the legs, we want to make this more rounder. Hold on, let me just remove these edges. There you go. We want to make this slightly rounder so that we can then create an edge that goes like this and basically incorporates the butt cheeks into the leg loops. Oh. Like this. This way we go from here. If you want to, and maybe you find that easier, you can also just draw it out first. So you can set your annotation pencil to surface, and then you can draw on the surface. You can see right there. So what you can do is you can draw out how the loop would go. We would want to move the loop over here around the body, and then we can perfectly go around through here and connect back to the back. I think we're going to use that instead of the other one. So let's put that in action. We don't want to create this n-gon here, but let's remove it. We want to do something else here. First of all, we have the loop coming from here. Oh. And then perfectly looping around the leg. You can see it right here. Might be a little bit, you know, flat. We could round it out a little bit if you wanted to, like this. But you can see the loop goes around the legs, and now we can make this a straight loop the further we go down. Let's look at the this region here first. What I want to do here is probably just connect it like this. There you go. And this way we have a loop going around the hip. There you go. Wait, yeah. You can see it right here. It goes from here all the way around into the middle and then back to the other side. So we have two perfect loops separating the body, the core, from the legs. And now we can go from the legs to the chin. And that's where we get to an interesting section. Let's actually create a loop right here. No, actually, let's create it down here. So I've seen two ways how you can retopologize ankles. Two ways. Let's look at the reference. So you can see both in this character. Well, there are actually three. So you have one which looks like this, where you only have basically edge loops. You have more edge loops. You have condensed edge loops, more edge loops in a certain area. For example, for the elbow, you can see they're a little bit closer together here. But what he also they included in the geometry is this sort of pad in the back to create better deformations when it comes to these very, very strong like angles, or if you want to move your arm like this, the faces that would be like placed very closely together right here would be stretched out quite a lot if you would do this. And creating a geometry that looks like this helps create better deformations. So there's either just adding edge loops, then there's the sort of padding, or what you can also use is what you can see right here, creating this sort of U shape. This U shape. This U shape is also in the other reference right here. You can see it in the biceps right there, U shape. You can see it in the elbow, U shape. You can also see it in the knees, U shape, and one more in the back as well, U shape. So we will probably use the U shape. Yeah, we will use the U shape. I don't exactly know why the U shape, or what the benefits and deficits are comparing the U shape to basically just adding more edge loops, but we will use the U shape. I can imagine that the biggest benefit to using the U shape is that we basically reduce the amount of vertices that we need to create good deformations. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to go all the way down to where the U shape would probably begin. Right here, we create a branch, and then we can, for example, go around the back first. Oh, hello. There you go. Now we go and steer towards the U shape. So many U shapes. Said it so many times. Okay. Let's do the knee. We want to create the U shape underneath or around the knee. So what we need to look at is basically we use an edge loop that comes from up top, or two edge loops that come up from up top, and then we connect them together using two turns, one for each edge loop, which also means that we basically let's model that real quick. So what we can do is we can add a cut right here. We can then remove this face so that's not connected anymore, and then we can separately model this piece into what we need, the U shape. The U shape requires a turn, which means we need a 45-degree turn right here, like this. There you go. Then what we can do is we can connect back together, and now we have the U-turn. U-shape, U-turn, whatever. Oh, hold on. There you go. You can make it sharper if you want to. There you go. Hold on. No, actually, we need to do something else. Hold on. We need to extend the geometry some more. We want to have two faces right there. I want to have 4 faces down here. So it'll actually look like, hold on, like this. Not up there, actually up down here. And then we go up. There you go. And then we create a cut right there and right there, so we can connect the faces. There you go. Okay, now we could of course bring these edges, these edge loops up and connect them to the rest here, but we can also keep them there for now. We don't really need to connect them just yet. I think that's more detailed work. That would be filling the surface basically. We have the same here though. We want to have the same on the other side, just a little bit higher, because you can see the knee is lower than the connection up here for the calf. So we want to create the same up there. We create another branch off point down here. Okay, we remove the connecting face. There you go, and then we can create the loop. There you go. We can connect back together, and now we have the loop on the back and on the front. If we want to, we could move it up, but we don't need to do that right now. Let's finish the leg by separating the foot from the leg. Doing that is very, very simple. We just grab the main edge that we pulled down to the knee, we pull it all the way down to the foot, and we create an edge loop around here. There you go, perfect. Now we have an edge loop around there. We can keep it quite low, or we can keep the edge amount quite low down here, because if we see that while filling the volume up here, we still need more vertices or more edges, we add more edge loops, we can still just add more down here as well. Okay, so now we basically have separated the legs into 2 pieces, and then we have the feet. Let's go to the arms and do the same. So the main separations for the arms is basically we want to separate the hand from the forearm, the hand from the forearm. We want to separate the forearm from the upper arm, and then we want to separate the upper arm from the shoulder. To do that, that's pretty simple. We first look at the shoulder. Looking at the shoulder, I think there's quite a clear, I guess, line that we can draw to separate the shoulder from the body. It is already in here, basically going from here around here and to this edge. And then we basically separated the shoulder from the arms. So let's put that into action. We can probably create another loop cut right here. Actually, should we? Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, let's create a cut right here. We can use this cut to go from here to here. We can then, if we wanted to, connect the middle here to the cut up there. There you go. We do the same on the other side. The other side is a little bit higher, but that's okay. To compensate for the different height, like the height differences, we can just make some, we can stretch out some faces and we can squash some together to kind of, yeah, basically make up for the height differences. There you go. And there it is. We have separated the shoulder from the arm. Let's go to the elbow. For the elbow, we have the same problem or the same phenomenon that we have for the leg, in that we want to create a U-turn, first of all around the biceps and then also around the elbow. Okay, so to do that, we do the same that we've done before. We first want to go down to both parts right here. We go to the biceps first. There you go. This loop can maybe be a little bit smaller. There you go. That's the loop, so we can connect it back together. We can go around and we can do the loop for the other side. So this U-turn seems to be a little bit lower, just a little bit lower than the biceps. So we have to create another branch of point here. Before we do that though, I kind of want to do this first. There you go. Place it down here. We can also just do this if we wanted to and then create another edge. I mean cut right there if we want to do it differently. Okay, now we have the U10 for the elbow and also for the biceps. Let's connect the loops. There you go. Perfect. Okay, now we have separated the biceps from the forearm. Let's go to the wrist. We select this edge again and go all the way down to the to the wrist. One thing we can keep in mind here now is that we rotated the arm. So we either go from the side. So what basically happened here is, you can see it here. If we look at the muscle, the forearm muscle right here, the forearm muscle is coming from here and goes, oh, I don't know why I can't just go back and remove it. I have to use the eraser. Unbelievable. So we go from here around to the side and connect right there. So we can either follow this line with the geometry, or we don't. Those are the two options. There you go. Looking at the references, let me just quickly look at it. Seems like some of them follow, some of them don't. Some of them follow them lightly, some of them follow them, I think, not at all. Well, no, they actually follow, they both follow, but not as strong as the muscles would, like, they don't completely follow the muscles. Okay, so let's actually do that as well. We go from here, probably like over here. I think that would make sense. And then we create another cut. If that doesn't make sense in the end, we can still move it, of course. Loosely setting up some edges here so we can create the edge loop. There you go, perfect. And we have the edge loop separating the hand from the arm. And now what it all comes down to, after we've basically done the same for the hand, is separating it more and more and more and more and more and more and more until everything's filled. That is basically retopology. You know, the hand is probably the most complex part of the retopology. Just because we have so many loops kind of intersecting with each other. You can see these loops might be pretty simple because they all move in one direction, but then you have this weird 90-degree intersection here, which we kind of have to work into the geometry. So yeah, we could probably begin with the hands. Hold on. So one thing we can do, for example, is we can first separate the fingers from the rest of the from the palm. We can do that in the beginning to make it easier. So we just grab this face, for example, go to the index finger and create a ring around it. I wonder if these are too far forward. Let me adjust the sculpt real quick. Oh, hello. I think we can move the knuckles a little bit further forward. Actually, should we move the knuckles or should we move... No, I want to move the palm down here. Why can't I switch to the other? Hello? Oh, because it's unselectable. There you go. I want to bring the knuckles closer to, I guess, the end of the connection here. There you go. Okay. Maybe that's a little bit too much. We can maybe move it back just slightly. Okay. So let's create the loop. We can probably begin right here. One thing you can do to hide part of the geometry, for example, if you're working on the hand, you can see the geometry of the hips is annoying you. You can just select the hip geometry however you want, like this, and then you can press H and then it's gone. If you want to unhide it, you can press Alt-H to bring it back. So if you're working on the hand, for example, and you see this annoying geometry in the back, you can just hide it like this. There you go. And now it's easier to work on the hand. So let's create the simplest loop possible first. Creating 4 edges, 4 faces. There you go. There you go. Now we've sectioned or separated the finger, the index finger from the rest of the hand. And we can do the same for the other fingers. As I said before, this is a very dry, quite boring task, but it has to be done. So, you know, all we can do is continue. The best part is probably, so what usually happens is it is like exponentially more exciting, I guess, when you work in retopology, just because, you know, setting up these loops in the beginning requires some planning and some, you know, foresight. But then once you kind of have everything set up, you, by just separating everything more and more to fill the spaces in between, the more you do it, the faster you get. And the faster you just progress, and then at some point, you know, it just gets exciting because you're going through it so fast. So yeah, the beginning can be quite slow, but the further you get to the end, the faster it gets. Maybe that's also just because you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you know, maybe it's both. Oh, there you go. Now we've separated the fingers from the rest of the hand. Let's do the same for the thumb. Oh. Really the only, I guess, complex area of the hand is really the palm, where all the geometry from the fingers kind of merge together. Everything else is fairly simple because it's basically just edge loops all the way to the end. Okay. So now we separated the fingers from the palm. We could create some more separations. For example, separating the thumb muscles, or we can separate the thumb completely from the rest of the hand by creating a specific loop. We could also, I think that would make the most sense. Yeah, let's do that. So to do that, we basically grab this edge right here, create another loop right here. And then we want to move this loop up here and all the way over here. This way we separate, you know, the rest of the palm from the thumb. And then what we do here is we create a 90-degree turn like this. There you go. And then we use this turn. Let me just quickly clean up the geometry here. Okay. We go around here. And then we need to go back into the thumb. Before we do that though, we want to make sure that we include the entire muscle basically. We need another cut right here, so we can do that. If you add another cut into an edge loop, you need to make sure to go over the entire newly created geometry and just move them so they attach to the surface. Otherwise, it doesn't attach, as we said before. We use this to go out and basically go around the thumb muscle. And then what we need to do is we need to do the same over here. We need to make a turn. There you go. And now we have separated the thumb entirely from the rest of the hand. Now the problem will be, how do we, for example, bring this geometry, how do we merge this? And this, you know, the more we do it, the more we separate, the easier it gets. But yeah, that's basically how we do it. Just trying to get this, fit this geometry somehow in here. Okay, yeah, this sort of area here, this area, and this area here, there's not really that much more separation that we can do. We really only have to now basically merge everything together in this space. Because there aren't really that many deformations here in this palm area, like except for maybe like minimal, you know, movement. The geometry doesn't matter that much. So we can work with some turns and all that stuff. Okay, one thing that I want to do here probably is I want to merge this face. There you go. Yeah, that's better. There you go. Now we have cleaner topology, which is less dense. Let me go sit down. Hold on. There you go. Okay, one thing we can do now is we can work on the fingers, basically finishing or separating the knuckles, or basically the bones from each other, where the knuckles are. Pretty simple, we just create an edge loop. So we do this, there you go, to separate the finger. Right here. Of course, it's quite low resolution right now, just because we set up the first loops. Afterwards, we can add more if we need to, and we probably will need more. But that is, so far, from everybody that I heard, and my own experience, the best technique to set up geometry for retopology. The reason is, by dividing and conquering, you can focus on the entire model and set up everything, which prevents you from running into the issue of basically finishing, for example, the head or the arm or the shoulder or whatever, and then transitioning to another part of the model and realizing that you need to completely transform your edge movement or your edge loops to transition to that new geometry, which would lead you to removing a lot of geometry and redo it, basically redoing it, which you can prevent by first setting up everything, all the important loops, before you basically fill the rest. Okay, let's do the rest, all the other fingers. At the end of the day, I think you need to go through a at least one fully, like you need to at least create one fully animatable character, or yeah, basically fully rigged and animatable character before you really understand most of what is important about topology. You can, you know, do as many retopologies as you want. Afterwards, going into weight painting and then using it for an animation, or basically just looking at the deformations that will be created. There's so much knowledge in just seeing how your geometry affects the afterwards, like the deformations and animation afterwards. That is kind of hard to learn by just doing or creating geometry. So I think the best way to learn good topology would be to at least create one animatable character. The best way a team can work together, if they know what the other part of, you know, if you have like an animator and a rigger and a modeler, the best way these people can work together to create the best product possible is if they know what the other person needs from them to create the best work possible. So the modeler needs to know how the geometry needs to look for the rigger to create a good rig. And the rigger needs to know how to set up the rig to create a good rig for animations. So if you go through the entire process at least once, you learn about every single step, which you know, which teaches you how to set up good topology for all the different challenges that await you when you want to go animate a character, basically. Of course, you can also follow a guide that completely goes through like a full character retopology. But I think still experiencing it is more valuable than learning it. There you go. We almost divided the entire finger. All the fingers. We need to do the thumb as well. There you go. Let's do the thumb. The thumb only has one ankle, which is pretty simple. Perfect. There you go. We have separated the entire model. Wait, oh, I forgot. I hid the hips. I thought I deleted it. Okay. Yeah, now we separated everything into smaller pieces. We can separate it even more to finish it. Yeah, but we basically defined all the shapes that we need. Now it comes down to just merging everything together. For example, here what we can do is we can create maybe 1 or 2 more cuts. Let's create 2. We can create 1 more right here. And then we can merge them together. And then we already filled this space right here. There you go. We can maybe add a cut right here as well. There you go. And there you go. We already filled the space underneath the chest. Space it out some more, it's quite dense. But what we can also do is we can kind of make these faces a little bit slimmer or smaller. There you go. This will basically just continue like this, you know, just going more and more, adding more and more lines, connecting more and more branches until the grid is completely filled. So I think this is a good spot to end it. I think we've covered basically everything that we need to cover. Yeah, the technique is basically defining the entire volume with individual edges first, or face loops first, before you fill the middle. Always make sure that you keep edge loops in mind. What I mean with edge loops is basically these face rings that define different areas of a face or of a body, for example. For a robot, that would be like an edge following the edge of an object with your face loop. If we, for example, hold on. If we bring in a cube, how we could retopologize the cube would, for example, be to create an edge to keep the strength of this edge right here. We could do this. Now we have an edge ring that goes around the edge and supports the sharpness of the edge. If you want to make it even stronger, we could, for example, do this. There you go. And then we can do the same in this direction. And this way, if we now smooth it or subdivide it, the edges still stay quite strong compared to the rest. You can see these edges stay almost the same. The other edges almost completely vanish and get like smoothed out. If you want to make the edges stronger, we can either bring these edges closer, or we can add another edge right here to make the face even stronger. There you go. Now the edge is even sharper. If you want to make the edge completely 100% sharp, or almost 100%, we move these edges way more in here. Way closer. The closer they are, the more the volume does not change by smoothing it. Of course, the subdivision surface modifier smoothest sounds weird. Smooth as the surface, but the closer the geometry, the less it gets smooth. You can see right here, it's still smooth, but it's very small. So for areas where you want to keep certain creases or certain structures, like for example the ear or the jaw or the nose, the nostrils, the eyes, that's where you create these edge supporting rings around to basically keep the edge that you previously sculpted. Same for the lips, for example. The ears would be the same. Ears are quite complex to retopologize. There's a lot of, I don't even know how to explain it. I think you can use the strategy of the Y and C for retopology of the ear, but I can't really explain it. It's something you have to just do or practice. Okay, yeah. Hope that was helpful. We went through retopology of the human body for the first time on stream. Well, for the second time, but through the entire body on stream. Previously, we only retopologized like the half, I guess, of the body. This time it's the full body, at least framing it, and then I'm going to fill these spaces on the weekend, so we can then continue with the clothing. Hopefully that was helpful, and yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, watching, chatting, or just being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.